Looking to take your financial knowledge to the next level? You're in the right place. Welcome to Ask Ralph, offering accounting, technical, and financial advice. Whether you're looking to save taxes or improve your business, he's got you covered. Here's your host of Ask Ralph, Ralph Eastup Jr.
Welcome back to the Ask Ralph Show. Today we're going to talk about something that I think is kind of fun to talk about, but it's not something fun if you've been affected by that. There was an article in USA Today written by Ashley Wong, and the question it asks is that a robocall? The top 5 scams by phone. And what we're talking about here, if you've got a cell phone, you know precisely what I'm talking about. There are a ton of phone calls being made. In fact, my son and I both got one the other day from a woman who left a voicemail in what I could only determine is probably Mandarin, the language. Robocalls have been on the rise in the United States. An estimated 4.1 billion robocalls were made nationwide in June alone. Now, this data was compiled by YouMail. That's an app that aims to prevent robocalls. Since February, they claim the number of robocalls across the country has risen more than 40%. And the truth is, most of these calls are after people's money, so it's a scam. Now, you'd think these would go down, but with the rapid improvement of phone caller ID, which most cell phones have now, and the proliferation, that's a tough word to use 10 times, of apps designed to screen for fake calls, the number of robocalls that actually get picked up the first try is declining. Well, that's a good news thing. That's what YouMail is saying. But that might also explain the sudden uptick in calls, because if they're not getting people to answer them the first time, they need to make more calls. When the first calls don't make it through, more attempts have to be made. But this doesn't necessarily mean phone call scams are becoming less successful. And that's because these calls are extremely cheap to make. And if they can just get a few people to fall for it, it pays for an awful lot of calls. And this is the problem. Some of these callers are legitimate. Maybe they're annoying, but they're legitimate. But here's the thing you need to understand. According to Alisi, 29% of the robocalls made in May were scams. Now, the rest of them, telemarketing, payment reminders, and debt collections. So we have to balance the scam calls or the robocalls that are scammers with that which is legitimate. And here's where it gets really complicated and why we call these robocalls. If you get one of these calls, one of the things you may notice is they disguise the caller ID with legitimate numbers. This is a term called spoofing. And the safest thing you can do when an unknown number pings your phone is just let it roll to voicemail. Now, I remember it's been a few months now. My wife called me and said, "Hey, I noticed you tried to call me earlier, but you didn't leave a message." And I said, "Well, listen, I didn't try to call you. I'm happy to talk to you, but I didn't try to call you." She says, "Well, I got a call from a number that looked just like yours." And that's what we're talking about. So they actually take numbers, and where I see this happening a lot. So let's say, for example, you live in Delaware. You get a call from a 302 area code. That's a Delaware area code. Now you're going to assume that, this must be somebody local. It doesn't come as an 800 number or something like that. It may even be a cell phone number. You might say, that's a cell phone. It looks like a cell phone number. That's really close to my friend Joe's cell phone number. Every month, YouMail collects audio clippings from the voicemails robocalls leave on its 10 million user phones. So this is a company that has 10 million users in their database. Once YouMail is alerted to a scammer's phone number, the number is entered into its database where the app's users can contribute additional information. So let's talk about where we're seeing these robocalls. Now, the number one most common robocall is about interest rates. Let's talk about the top 5 scam robocallers by volume. And this is looking at June 2018. The top one was Capital One. 37 million calls. This number leaves a voicemail from a woman claiming to be from Capital One calling to discuss an important business matter. So, let's say, for example, you actually have a Capital One account and you get this call. You may very well think, hey, this is a legitimate call. But see, here's where the problem starts. You make the call back, and then they play dumb. They'll say to you something like, "Oh yeah, we called you." Now, I'll be straight with you about one thing. One of the dead giveaways to a lot of these is the accent that you hear the person on the phone. And I don't want to make any ignorant racist comments, but the truth of the matter is most of the time there is a strong foreign accent. That should be your first tip off that there might be a problem. And then they'll not be able to provide you with information. I mentioned this in another podcast or radio show before. Don't ever give your bank account information or credit card information, social security number, or date of birth over the phone. If someone is calling you from a legitimate business that is aware of your information, they should be able to give you that information. If they can't give you that information, then there's a very good chance that information is bogus. Number 2 is Comcast customer service. This caller leaves a voicemail claiming to be a courtesy call from Comcast. It made calls an estimated 14 million times. And see, a lot of people use Comcast for their internet or television or telephone. So you might think this is a legitimate call. And if you think it's a legitimate call, you call them back and, maybe they're going to talk to you about a promotion. Oh, wow, I'm going to get HBO for free or Showtime for free. I just need your credit card to sign up. Be careful. Most of the time, these companies that are legitimate companies are sending you information by email, or maybe they send it with your monthly statement. If you really think that it's Comcast, then go to the Comcast website and be careful. You go to the legitimate one and call them back directly using that phone number. The next one is Wells Fargo. This caller tried 14 million times claiming to be a debt collector from Wells Fargo. And see, this is a very common one. And what they're looking for there is somebody to answer the phone and say, oh yeah, let me give you my bank account information. And you give it to them because you're trying to confirm that. They're trying to confirm that. Then they've got your information. Another one is Santander. Consumer affecting 12 million. This caller leaves a voicemail from a man or woman claiming to be from Santander Consumer, a car loan and automotive refinancing company. So they'll call you and say, hey, we notice that you've got a car loan and we're going to be able to refinance that for you at a much lower rate. Can I get your name? Can I get your social security number, date of birth, and address? Oh, guess what, my friends? Identity theft. That's what we're talking about here. And people give it out because, they make this promise that they're going to give you a lower interest rate on either a car loan or some sort of consumer loan. So be very careful. And the other one is portfolio recovery. I've gotten this call myself. This leaves a voicemail claiming to be from the debt buying company Portfolio Recovery Associates. And if I remember correctly, this one will say they're some sort of recovery company from Texas, and they'll make some kind of accusation that, you passed a bad check or a check was returned on your name. And say, here's a scam. So then when they say that, they'll say to you, oh, well, let me look up your information in our database. What is your routing number? What is your account number? Well, guess what now? They've got your information. And it's that simple. And that's why these are so prolific. Because they get people to take advantage of. And I hate to say it, a lot of elderly people fall victim to this because they trust people. Never give information to anyone who is calling you. It's a bad plan. And to be honest with you, my wife and I kind of take this position. If you don't know who's calling you and the number doesn't make sense to you, just let them leave a voicemail. If they're nefarious and they're up to no good, unless of course they leave you a Mandarin one like I got today. I'm still not sure what the lady said, but maybe it was good. I don't know. Maybe I should get on Google Translate and try to figure it out. But be careful about these robocalls. I hope this was helpful to help you avoid being scammed by this new robocall fad.
You've been listening to Ask Ralph, brought to you by Sazio Accounting Plus. Please subscribe to and rate our podcast on Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your podcasts, and leave us a rating and review. Our podcast is produced by Carolyn Peters. Thank you for listening, and be sure to like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter at Ask Ralph Media. You can also hear me each week on 1450 WILM and on 1410 WDOV in Delaware and on the iHeartRadio app. Submit your questions or ideas for future shows by sending an email to AskRalph@AskRalph.com.
The information contained in this episode of Ask Ralph is based on data available as of the date of its release. Sagio Accounting Plus and Ask Ralph Media Inc. is under no obligation to update this content if changes occur. Applying this information to your specific situation requires careful consideration of all facts and circumstances, and any information provided is not to be considered as financial, tax, or legal advice. Please consult your tax advisor or attorney before acting on any material covered.